Hello, everyone. In this e-lesson, we're going to take a quick look at some of the best practices in online teaching. We know that teaching online is different from teaching in a traditional manner in a face-to-face classroom. And the role of the instructor also shifts, given that your students are separated from you both in time and space, and you have to use a variety of virtual management techniques to enable engage them. This infographic actually was from Online Learning Consortium, who do quite a bit of leading research in the area of online learning. This is from 2016. There wasn't another new one recently. So this shows that there were 5.8 million students enrolled in online courses, which is a 263% increase over the last 12 years, and two-thirds of those students are taking online courses at public institutions. And the good part is 90% of them think that, the online learning is the same or better than traditional classroom experience. What I'd like to do is, for the rest of the presentation, walk you through 10 best practices. Actually, the practices were put forward by the Instructional Development Center at University of New Hampshire. Uh, but I'm going to bring my own, experience using each of those practices as examples. So these are the 10 we're going to look at, all the way from preparation and planning to design until assessment and evaluation. Starting with preparation and planning, when you're getting ready to teach online, you will have to prepare to spend more time than you would do in a traditional course. Actually, a semester, a lead time, even for a semester, is helpful because students like having the course built, when at the beginning of the semester when you're teaching it, unlike in a face-to-face class where you can, design on the go. I mean, you could still do a few things in the online class, but then the lead time is always helpful. Seek out successful models. If you don't have access to take a course, look at, workshops, webinars, any way you can learn strategies. And then also experience technology from a student's perspective. Taking an online course is always beneficial. And then compiling a list of resources that will benefit your students so that, if they have challenges, you should know where to send them. And you want to test all the exercises and activities before you open them, looking at it like, from a student perspective. Also, with a variety of browsers and devices these days, you want to try and test as many as possible. Your students could be on tablets, on smartphones, so you want to test as much as possible. And then, as an instructor, you want to develop routines for yourself to manage the course. Setting a schedule for online communication, a day for sending out announcements, and also setting aside time for grading is very important. If you notice, I send out announcements every Monday, and then I try to grade within the week. So, having that schedule is very important. And then also knowing who to reach out in case you have technology challenges. Having those contact information is helpful. I mentioned the testing technology. Here are a few browsers and operating system. If you are, teaching at UNC Charlotte, then, there is a phone number you could call. There is an FAQ. There's a help email. So just like that, any university or college or, wherever you're teaching at, there will be, folks to assist you. So, having that contact information is very helpful. Second is getting into design. You by now you should know design is very, very critical in an online course. You want to keep it simple and logical. You don't want your students to search for information. If that be the case, you're going to lose them. They're going to log in and log out. So simple and logical navigation is important. Block your content into small accessible pieces. Chunking is important. I usually do it by week. Some faculty do 2 3 weeks together, so you want to see what works for that particular content that you're teaching. Alignment is critical. You want to align your instructional content with objectives and instructional material to activities and assessment. Students should be able to see that clear alignment between those four things. And also you want to make sure that each weekly objectives are aligned to your course goals. So this is just, I have examples from a variety of courses that I'm going to show in this module. So this is a homepage I used to have in a different course. Like, I had 8 menus, so students could find what they want quickly. Um, Syllabus, schedule, getting started, course modules, that's where the bulk of the content was. So this is one from the 81, admin 8695 course. And if you see the menu on the left, you would have noticed I've hidden a lot of menus. You want to give only the menu options that your students need. You don't want to confuse them. So I have, 7 menus open. And then, the modules have every week, there is a module that is set aside. But I also have this navigation at the bottom. If students like the visual navigation and want to click on it, they can still access the same items that they can in the left side of the menu. So design is critical. So this is a screenshot from when I used to, UNC Charlotte used to use Moodle before we moved to Canvas. Moodle has a different format. So, depending upon whatever LMS you use, navigation is very important and clear alignment. So Moodle was like a one-page format. So I used to use this tabular format where students could see the objectives, readings and resources, e-lesson, then I used to do a discussion, assignment, and a reflection. So, and then, I have the created a navigation on the side for each week. So that was that one. So, if you are not familiar with Quality Matters, I want to give you a quick look. So, they have 43 standards on what constitutes a quality online course. And I'm going to show you, these are the highlights. So, these are like, talks about the importance of alignment, and showing you how learning objectives, you have to have measurable learning objectives, assessments to measure the learning objectives, and instructional material, again, stated to contribute to the learning objectives, and activities, again, towards the learning objectives, and tools to support the learning objectives. So it shows the alignment, the 2.1, 3.1, 4.1, 5.1, and 6.1. And it is like, essential standards. So this is kind of like, will this is like the importance of instructional design and alignment. And it's nice to have a map, so students can see the alignment, again, objectives, what activities are done to achieve that objective, and what type of an assignment is done. So again, this is from a different course. And moving on to number three, you want to be able to set expectations. So the first one is very important. You don't want to expect your online student to do something you cannot do yourself. And you cannot assume all your students are tech savvy. You might teach a variety of students. We talked about different learning generations. So you want to make sure that, all your whatever you ask your students to do, you're able to do it. Learn about your tech students technology skills. Having them complete a readiness survey is always helpful, and also having clear expectations and guidelines even for computer use, online etiquette, and email conventions are important. Also, students appreciate having clear grading scale criteria and rubrics, so how you grade them is also very important. They like to no. So this is an example readiness survey. Actually, this link wasn't working the last time I checked. This is out of Chapel Hill. But there are so many other different readiness surveys. So all you have to do is online learning readiness. And then if you Google, it will pull up. Continuing on expectation, having a course orientation is helpful. In a face-to-face class, you can walk in the first week and talk about, spend almost the whole class talking about, what to expect. But in an online class, having the time to get started, and so having a course orientation, orienting the students to the course is very important. Getting started quiz is important, like then students can take the time to review everything and complete a quiz. Letting the students know like how quickly they can hear from you, like having a default time, like 24 to 48 hours for emails, or a week for feedback on projects, how they can contact you. So those are all important expectations to set. And then having a discussion forum where they can ask questions, so that then you're not getting individual emails, especially if you teach large class sizes, and everybody can see each other's questions, and it'll be a common place. So having like a contact instructor forum is also helpful. So these are just a couple of examples, like I've talked about, the response times. So I have that in the course. Having that is very helpful. Moving on, the fourth one is presence. When you teach online, it doesn't mean the instructor is not there, right? It's very important for the instructor to be present. You want your students to get to know you in the online setting, and you want to get to know them. So, having opportunity for introductions is important, interactive and participatory activities. You don't want it to be just like a self-paced, environment, because students can get isolated pretty quickly. Even though it's online, you want to be present. You don't want just the technology to take over. And if you're recording, it's nice to have videos, so the students will get to know who you are, and so those are important. So this is just like a sample video, even if you don't create a video for every week, having a mix of, expert videos as well as, your videos in there is always helpful. Introducing via audio-visual methods, this is an example of a voice thread introduction. Like, any audio-visual introduction compared to a text-based introduction, so it helps you create that presence in the course. And I mentioned course orientation. Again, uh, recording is always helpful for students. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to only record. You could also have, like, text-based orientation, but, recording is always helpful because then, you're able to create that presence. Multiple ways for students to contact you is important. Like, the help forum, but then comes the email, and then call you, and then also come and see you in person, especially if they are in town or they are on campus. It's always helpful to give them a variety of ways for them to reach you. You don't want the students to feel disconnected from you and not knowing how to reach the instructor. Customizing your syllabus, like making sure that, so they know that the syllabus belongs to this class, because syllabus can be boring otherwise, right? 15-20 pages of just text. So make sure that you customize the syllabus, and make sure you have the response times also provided in the syllabus. A variety of forums can be used to create presence. So announcement is one way, send periodic announcements, contact the instructor regular, like a forum, where students can email. Student lounge, I create this, but it's sometimes students use it, sometimes they don't. So this is like if they have questions for each other, okay? And then having a forum for discussion, forum summary. So these are just a few forums I use, but there's so many other ones that you can also create. So these are just, the examples of each of those forums. Being present in discussions is important. Even though you might have facilitators, you want to still be in there, setting clear expectations, interacting regularly, referring to students by name, those are all very important. I mentioned the videos, having instructor generated presentation, even though it's time consuming to create it. I think, taking the time to do it is very important, because as an instructor, you're the subject matter expert. So, it's good for the students to hear from you as well, along with open using, OER, open educational resources and expert videos. Clear rubrics, I mentioned, there's a screenshot of all the criteria. So if you're doing reflections, student reflections, so you get to hear from the student, but at the same time, for you to take the time to respond to the student is also important. So that also helps in creating a presence. Having, even though the course is primarily asynchronous, having that opportunity for some synchronous communication, right? These days we have so many technologies: Skype, we have Google Hangout, we have WebEx. So at UNC Charlotte, we have WebEx, the personal meeting room. So you can take the time to talk to the students, and, like, office hours, but also, if office hours don't work for the students, then setting aside time if they have questions to come see you is also helpful. Collecting feedback is always helpful. Even though universities and colleges do have, like, they are systematic collection of feedback at the end of the semester, like, you can collect additional feedback all the time, mid-semester and end of semester. So those will help you directly with related to course topics in the course. So those are also helpful. Moving on to the fifth best practice. So presentation. When you do recorded lectures, demonstrations, or synchronous sessions, you want to describe what you're doing on the screen. So these are just presentation techniques. If there's a option to use a whiteboard and annotation features, you want to use that so that you can get the students to focus. You want to summarize what has been discussed, and then breaking up the screen with text and graphics, to help students visualize your topic is important. And you don't want to use the technology just because it's cool, and you want to make sure that the instructional content that you're delivering is what is important, and the technology supports it. Just not moving, the happy mouse syndrome is you're clicking all over the screen. You don't want to do that. Moving on to the sixth one is interaction. This is very, very essential in an online course. Daniel and Marcus, they define interaction as an activity in which students in a two-way contact with one or more persons. And then Gilbert and Moore later, they defined it as like, this is specifically the computer-mediated instructions, a reciprocal exchange between technology and the learner. Moore came up with three types of interaction: learner to learner, learner to instructor, and learner to content. So learner to learner is, anytime you get to engage in conversation with your peers. Learner to instructor is with the instructor and with content. So those are the three types of interaction, and all three are very critical in an online setting. So how can you achieve some of these interactions? So in a learner to learner setting, having the student lounge for students can talk to each other, having icebreaker introductions so they get to know each other, having, forum moderators or facilitators. So, the students are leading the discussion. So that's a learner to learner interaction, using peer review for projects. And then also using synchronous, when you do synchronous sessions, you use breakout rooms, then students can get to engage in conversation with each other. So you probably have seen several of these in online courses that you have taken. So these are just again screenshots of some of the techniques that I talked about. Learner to instructor is again, if you do synchronous, you want to use a variety of the features in the synchronous session. If you do discussions, again, for the instructor to be present so you can engage in conversation with the students, sending regular announcements. That's again a learner to instructor or instructor to learner, either way. Providing more than one way for the students to contact you, that enhances learner to instructor interaction. Office hours, phone appointments, providing an opportunity for students to reflect, and then where you could respond to, and then the student, and then also providing feedback, using a variety of modalities: text, audio, video, and visual. So those are all enhancing learner to instructor interaction. So I have screenshots for each of these. Synchronous, meeting orientation, forums, again, synchronous technology, feedback. Moving on to learner to content. So learner to content is, presenting content in more than one way. You just don't want to have only text, right? Sometimes, there might be chapter readings, article readings, there might be videos, games and simulations. It depends upon the course, that, level of course and your audience, what type of content you want to give. Providing links to online resources which allow students to explore more topics in depth. And you can also invite guest lectures, right? Audio and or video clips to guest lectures. They can be synchronous, or they could be like, asynchronous. So you could also have recordings posted in your course shell. Again, live synchronous web conferencing also can enhance learner to content interaction. And also, you want to be able to provide students an opportunity to generate their own content. So, and also require them to participate in discussion forums, where again they reflect and build on the content that you provided. Self tests allow students to check their understanding. The recommendation when you share content is keeping the format of your lessons consistent. So again, I showed an example at the beginning. So just every week you want to keep it in a same format. So here are just a couple of modules from two different courses. Instructor generated and expert presentations, like using videos. Moving on, next is engagement. So engagement is similar to interaction. So here engaging your students are engaged by raising their curiosity, and they're participating in the content. You could use games, competitions, multimedia, a variety of ways to keep your students' attention focused in the class. Again, you want to interact regularly by their name to promote engagement and attention. If you're doing synchronous, using breakout rooms is a great idea. Using peer review for projects engages them. So you might ask, what is the difference between interacting and engagement? So interaction, it's like a two-way communication usually. Engagement could also be a one-way, to attract, hold fast, occupy attention of one another or oneself. So it could be both ways. So that's what interaction and engagement is. Communication also builds on, engagement and interaction. It could be like when you're teaching in an online class, you could have both synchronous and asynchronous communication. Again, several of the strategies we already talked about, so using office hours enhances communication, but you want to make sure that you know what time zones your students are in, and you want to accommodate all their needs. And being visible in your online classroom in the discussion, uh, like you rest taking the time to respond to your students is very important. And also if students have questions, you want to make sure that you respond as soon as possible. Providing feedback is very, very critical, timely and meaningful feedback to the learners, because some assignments and activities they build on each other. So you don't want to wait too long, and you want to respond to posts and assignments as quickly as possible, and also give constructive and substantive feedback. um, and collecting same way, not only you collecting feedback, you want to collect feedback from your students. You want to periodically ask them what is working and what is not. You don't want to wait until the end of the course to get feedback. So an opportunity like for students to reflect or collect mid-semester feedback. So these are all great techniques to have. And last but not least, assessment and evaluation is very, very critical in an online course, providing multiple opportunities and modalities for students to, demonstrate their skill or knowledge mastery. That's how you assess your learners, right? But whatever type of assessment you use for face to face, you want to adapt it for the online setting. If there are major projects, remind them, by sending announcements, and then also tracking, each student's progress on a regular basis. If you feel that a student is not performing, you want to reach out early. Don't wait until the very end. And then, having some kind of a knowledge assessment is critical. End of the day, as an instructor, online instructor, you want to continuously improve. Once you design your course, you're not done. Always look for ways to improve when you teach it the next time. So keep track of notes and feedback, in the folder wherever you wish, so that you can use it the next time you teach it. So that's a quick look at 10 different practices, best practices to teach online. I hope you're able to take several of these and use it in your class that you build and facilitate.